for watching another Cardinals Nest here on HBC TV 25. The Cardinals Nest, a program devoted exclusively to St. Mary's University and its athletic programs. I'm Dean Beckman, joined by Sports Information Director Donnie Netto. A little bit later on in the program, we'll bring in Mike Lester, the head volleyball coach for the Cardinals. And Donnie, once again, they are off to a fantastic start to the season, and we're really getting into the throes now of conference play.
Yeah, it's going to be a great segment. It always is when Mike's on, and we certainly enjoy having him come on and give us a little insight. And one of the things that I've really found interesting, and I'd be curious to talk to Mike a little bit about, is the fact that so many of his athletes are so talented in that, they play dual sports, and you don't really see that as much anymore, Division III level especially, and I know that Mike has a couple that are very talented, and I'm just kind of curious to see if maybe that's something that he actually looks for as he's recruiting, or is it just that he knows how to find really good talent?
Well, and even at the youth level now, there's so much specialization going on, so it's something else we can talk to him about. But, so Mike will be on a little bit later on in the program, but first we'll take a look at the past week in St. Mary's athletics, and Donnie, the men's soccer team is definitely on a roll. They came this close to a 3-game winning streak, but fell just short to Gustavus yesterday.
Yeah, tough loss to the Gusties. The Cardinals have been playing some really, really good soccer, and they went into that Gustavus match really hoping to put together that 3-game winning streak. Unfortunately, a corner kick in the second overtime, they weren't able to handle it, and Gustavus did get the game winner with about 8 minutes left in the second overtime, so they did take the 1-0 loss. The team is playing very well. As we said, a 2-game winning streak, certainly nothing to sneeze at, especially because both of those wins in this recent streak were conference wins. Gives them a quick 6 points in the conference standings, and really kind of puts them right in the mix as we start thinking about conference tournaments, because with 8 games in, or with 4 games in, it's kind of getting to the midpoint of the conference season. So if they can continue to play well and continue to rack up some points, I know, as Coach Watkins said, it would have been nice to get at least a point out of yesterday's match against Gustavus, but unfortunately it wasn't to be.
Well, and one of those wins was against a team ahead of them in the standings, and that was St. John's. A 1-0 victory, hard-fought affair, but they came away victorious.
Yeah, a big win there, and then a big win against Bethel. A nice 3-1 win there. So, like I said, they're playing very good. They're spreading out their offense. Nate Levy in goal is just playing phenomenal, and you've got to credit all of the defenders, and not just Nate. He certainly is a part of why they're being successful right now. You just look at the Gustavus game. He had 9 saves in the Gustavus game, so he's doing his part. But a lot of the defenders are as well, led by Jared Wolt, who's kind of become their center back and is really doing a phenomenal job back there. So, a lot of the credit, we always talk about the goal scorers. Sometimes the people that are in the back and doing the defending don't always get a chance to get their chance in the sun, and really they are as much a part of why they're being successful right now as the offense is.
At the tail end of the show, we always kind of take a look at what's coming up in the week ahead, and so, but looking just long term for this St. Mary's soccer program, as you said, right now they're in the hunt for the playoffs for the conference, but there are a lot of conference games left. There's still about half of the games to go, and plus they have a few non-conference games peppered in there too.
Right, absolutely. Right now is like your early look at the conference standings, because if you start standings watch now, you're right. There's just so much soccer yet to be played, and so many things can happen. And really, the game against Gustavus is a perfect example. It's one of those games that, on paper, the teams are very evenly matched. One mistake, which is what happened in that second overtime, and that's the difference in the game. So it's really important that they focus on every game, and I'm sure when we talk to Mike in the second segment, he's going to say the same thing about his volleyball team. They've got to focus on every single match and not look ahead and not be worried about what might happen next week or in 2 weeks when they face whoever it may be. They've got to focus on, right now they've got to focus on Concordia on Saturday, and then after that game's over, put it aside and start focusing on Hamlin for the next weekend. So it's very important that they really keep into perspective. Great start for them, but there's still an awful lot of soccer to be played.
And an awful lot of soccer as well for the women's soccer team. Donnie, they had a really tough 1-0 loss last week, and then followed that up with a 4-2 defeat. But that 1-0 loss to University of Wisconsin River Falls, I think that's one they'd like to have back.
Yeah, absolutely. Played very well. It was a great game, and I know Coach Cassidy was happy with the way they played. But again, it's one of those things that one mistake is all it takes in the game of soccer, and so they suffer that 1-0 loss. The Bethel game, probably one of their better offensive performances, in that Bethel scores first, St. Mary's rattles off 2 goals, takes a 2-1 lead, and unfortunately Bethel scores late in the first half to tie it going into the intermission, and then scores 2 second-half goals to take the win 4-2. But St. Mary's is putting some goals on the board, which is very important, and they're talk about spreading it out. They've scored 7 goals of late, and six different players have scored. So Becca Dufault is the only one that has scored twice in their last 7 goals. So they are spreading the wealth a little bit. Now they've just got to continue to try and shore up the defense a little bit. You can't afford in a soccer game to give up 4 goals and hope to win many games.
Right. There are times, though, that Becca Dufault can dominate a game, isn't there?
Oh, she's so fast.
Yeah.
I mean, she's probably one of the faster players I've ever seen, and I'm sure she gives fits to other coaches just because of her speed and her ability to handle the ball with her feet, and yeah, she's a very talented player and has shown that she has a knack for scoring goals, and so yeah, she definitely can play.
And speaking of 2-sport athletes, like we were earlier with the volleyball team, Emma Schaefer continues to score goals and play really well for the Cardinals.
Emma is a very talented athlete, and like I was alluding to with Coach Lester, Emma's a basketball, soccer double athlete, and is as good on the basketball court as she is on the soccer field. She's having an outstanding soccer season for her last time as a Cardinal soccer player, and she's got 3 goals right now, leads the team with 7 points. So she's doing very well, and hopefully things will continue that way as the season progresses.
Okay. So let's switch gears now to golf, and the women's golf team, they're off right now until the MIAC championships in a few weeks here. But the men's golf team, they were in the Wisconsin Lutheran tournament, and how did they do?
Yeah, they finished 8th overall. A decent performance. I know Coach Moore wasn't quite as happy with the scores. They were a little bit higher than what St. Mary's has been putting up of late, and so that concerned him a little bit. But, it was one of those tournaments where Mother Nature decided to have a little hand in it as well. There were 2 rain delays on Sunday in the first round. They didn't finish the first round, so they had to finish the first round early Monday morning before they got to play the second round. So it really kind of just messes with your head a little bit. And, so I'm sure that had something to do with some of the scores. Kyle Brodt had a very good weekend. He had a 162 total with a 78 as the individual low. Owen Blakely also had a 78 in the first round, and then David Eiton equaled Brodt's 162 total with a pair of 81s. So some decent scores, but the way they've been playing, this probably is a step in the wrong direction, because they are definitely better than those scores indicated. To only have 2 rounds of their top 5 in the scoring in the 70s is just so unlike what they've been doing this year. So the nice thing for Coach Moore is he's got 2 weeks now to prepare for the MIC championships. They'll go up to Bunker Hills on Saturday for a practice round, which certainly will help. And then, that basically second weekend of October, they'll play 54 holes at Bunker Hills, and hopefully they can continue to play as well as they have leading up to the conference championships.
And we should also mention cross country off as well this past week. We'll be talking more about them next week here on the Cardinals Nest. Stay tuned here. We have Mike Lester, the head volleyball coach. He'll be with us next on the Cardinals Nest on HBC.
Turn your friends into GigaFriends with HBC and earn up to $50 on each qualifying referral.
Up to $50?
That's right.
More input, please.
When HBC customers refer their friends to sign up for HBC services, they can earn up to $50. If they get 2 friends to sign up for services...
that would be $100?
That's right. Pretty quick with the math there.
Affirmative. We are robots. Math is kind of our thing.
Never would have guessed.
Grab some GigaFriends and start saving today.
Football night on HBC is back.
When it comes to high school football, no one has you covered like HBC.
Join HBC 25 Sports this fall as we travel to local high school football stadiums to bring you our game of the week.
And now it's brought to you in crystal clear HD.
To see the full schedule of games, log on to hbci.com/sports.
Catch all your local high school football action right here on HBC.
Brought to you by Lewiston Auto.
HBC Sports, your home for high school football.
The future of broadband is here with HBC GigaWorld. Discover next-generation internet, allowing you to stream multiple HD movies simultaneously, download your favorite music, backup files to the cloud, and more, all in less than 60 seconds. Watch TV on your schedule with whole home DVR, video on demand, and HBC TV to go. Reach out to friends and family near and far with crystal clear local and unlimited long-distance calling. HBC GigaWorld, with more bandwidth and reliability than any other provider. Imagine the possibilities. Visit hbci.com today. Join a growing company where you'll be challenged, inspired, and valued with HBC. HBC Incorporated is a telecommunications company providing leading-edge fiber optic internet, video, long-distance telephone, and more. Join a culture that embraces a commitment to provide exceptional, unparalleled customer service. HBC currently has an opening for a Human Resources Director in Winona. This position will support the development and advancement of the HBC workforce. To learn more and apply, visit hbci.com/.
And we're back here on the Cardinals Nest. Thanks for watching here on HBC. And now we're back to talk volleyball with head coach Mike Lester as he joins us now. Dean Beckman along with Donnie Netto. And Mike, you're off to a great start this year. 14-2, 2-1 in the conference. And I know it's early, long ways to go yet, and I know you want to kind of focus on that. But given all of the senior losses from last year, I would imagine you're at least pleased with how the year has started here.
Yeah, it's been a really good start. You know, we've been fortunate in a lot of our tournaments to be able to get a lot of young players some playing time. Played everybody on our roster a significant amount of time early, and that's important for us as we head into the conference season. So yeah, it's been a pleasant start for us.
Mike, for you, I mean, this is the best start you've had as coach, and you've been here a long time. How do you kind of keep everything in perspective, and how do you make sure that your players understand that it's only 16 matches in? That sounds like a lot, but for you guys, really, that's not a whole lot of time compared to what's still to come.
Right. Yeah. You're right. It's been a great start, and every now and then we get the players that are looking toward the next match and saying, "Wow, 14-2. What could we end up as the season goes on?" But we really talk about the process a lot, and for us, it's making sure that every single one of these matches that we play, we not only get better from match to match, but we also get better within that match. And so we try to make sure that from a point that we start a certain match, that we're improving throughout that match and trying to get better, because the conference season clearly is the most important part for us.
That's interesting, because I know one of the things that you like to do is make sure that your players kind of figure it out as you talk in match. I know, unlike a lot of college volleyball coaches, you don't take a lot of timeouts. You kind of make them figure it out. Talk about that philosophy of what you kind of are trying to teach the players as you make them kind of sort through some.
Sure, yeah, and sometimes I'm a little too patient, I think, in terms of calling timeouts. But for me, it's important for the players to really be able to work together, figure things out together, learn to trust each other when situations maybe aren't going exactly how they want them. And fortunately, this year we've been able to come back from some pretty big deficits without calling timeouts and letting the team really work together to try to figure it out. Obviously, as the season moves on, we'll probably get a little bit more quick with some timeouts. But early in the season, I think it's important for the players to really try to figure it out together as a group.
What's been your success in these tournaments that you've been in? You've been in 3 tournaments. You're 4-0 in each of them. Right. So what is the philosophy going into these tournaments, and do you coach a tournament differently or just prepare them differently, or what's been the key to success, do you think?
Well, I think having 4 matches in a weekend, it kind of gets the players thinking about the long haul and the big picture. And in reality, over the course of the season, that's what we're trying to get them to think of in general, is kind of that whole big picture process. And when you have 2 matches on a Friday, 2 matches on a Saturday, you really have to kind of think of it that way. Again, like Donnie mentioned earlier, we did graduate a big senior class last year. And so our scheduling was a little bit different this year in whom we're playing early. And we've been able to have some success in those tournaments, and hopefully that leads to a successful conference season, which is the most important part for us.
And we both now mentioned the big senior class, what you lost. You've got some players that really have stepped up, not only the newcomers coming in, but some of your veterans who are now seeing different roles. Talk a little bit about what they're doing differently, what they've done to really kind of help you guys out.
Well, it's interesting. Probably one of the, on paper at least, one of the biggest losses we had last year was the loss of Lex Krogstad, our libero, for 4 years. And everybody is talked about how are you going to replace a player like Lex, and you really don't do that very easily. But we're really fortunate. Morgan Thomas has really stepped up for us in a different role. Player that played a lot for us over the last few years, but in a different role as a defensive specialist, and she's done a really good job in that libero role. But probably the most important thing for us this year has been really the way that our 3 seniors have stepped up in a leadership role. I think, yes, we lost players on the court, we lost a lot of offense, we lost a lot of defense in Lex, but probably the biggest thing that we lost was some of that leadership. And for Maddie Hess and Molly Urban and Morgan Thomas to step up the way they have in a leadership role has really meant a lot to our team this year.
Talk a little bit about Maddie and what she brings, because what I find interesting is when she gets her opportunity, she's doing some great things. I look at the 30 assist match she had, the 4 blocks she had against St. Thomas. She's giving you everything you need of her in a really kind of a different role, especially as a senior.
Right. Yeah, I give Maddie a ton of credit. We've asked her to do a lot of different things for us. She's come on as a serving specialist. She's run a 5-1. She's run a 6-2 for us as a setter. She's been an outside hitter for us this season, and no matter what we ask her to do, she steps in and does a really solid job. And it's nice to have that out of a senior leader, somebody that's willing to do whatever it takes for the team to be successful, putting herself a little bit second. So that's really valuable for everybody on our team to see, particularly our young players.
And let's talk a little bit about the young players. There certainly are some that are kind of stepping to the forefront. If you wouldn't mind just talking a little bit about what has impressed you thus far this season.
Sure. We have a number of young players that have really had to step in. With the loss of both of our right sides from last year, Mackie Fadness, an all-conference player, and Cassidy Biddle, we really needed some players to step into that role. And we really have 3 players that are doing a really good job there. Gloria Katangi as a sophomore, Lexi Barth, a freshman, and Bailey Jones, a freshman, that have really stepped into that role and done very well. Lily Braun, a setter from Casson, stepping into the role vacated by Taylor McVeigh has been great for us as well. And so it's nice to have a really good mix right now. You still have Molly Urban and Sarah Lind returning starters, Brittany Hansen from last year's team, and then you add that influx of new players, and it's been a really good mix for us.
I noticed too, Tara Nagy getting some playing time
Yeah.
and contributing too.
Tara, a junior, but her first year with us this year, and doing a really good job at that second outside hitter spot. So it's been great.
And I had alluded to in the first segment, can you talk a little bit about your athletes in general, because they really are athletes. I mean, you've got so many that play dual sports. Molly is a softball player. Brandy Blattner is a basketball player. Brittany Flom is going to play basketball this year. So you have so many of them that are just talented athletes in general.
Yeah, I think it's been good. I haven't even mentioned Brandy Blattner stepping into a new role for us this year. And offensively, she's our kill leader, attempt leader. She's doing a lot of really, really good things. And part of that has to do with her work ethic. She's obviously a hard worker from a volleyball and basketball perspective. But yeah, the dual sport athlete thing, here at St. Mary's, we have that advantage if student athletes want to do it. Brandy Blattner would not be at St. Mary's right now if it wasn't for the opportunity to participate in 2 sports. And so we provide that really kind of unique opportunity for players to do it that are so motivated.
I'm thinking now back early in the season here with so many newcomers and players in different positions. What was practice like early in the season compared to maybe last year's early practice?
Yeah, we kind of joked that last year we just kind of rolled the ball out and said, go and do it. And everybody kind of knew what we were trying to do. But there was a lot more teaching this year, not just of skills, which we do every year and we have to do from day one every practice, but teaching the drills that are pretty standard drills for us was different early in the season. And players playing different positions. We rotated people all over the place during preseason. So it really was, in a way, kind of a volleyball camp in which everybody got opportunities to do a lot of different things during that first 10 days.
We talked about the tournaments that you've played. Now you're kind of in a stretch here where you'll have 5 conference matches, and then you're going to step out again and you're going to play in another tournament. But this one might be a little bit more special though, because you're heading out east and playing 4 matches against teams that you've never played before. Right. Talk a little bit about the trip to Newman and kind of what you're looking to get out of that entire trip.
Yeah, it should be a good trip. We really have not gone out toward Philadelphia before. Like you said, playing 4 teams that we really don't know a whole lot about. But hopefully it's a good trip. Hopefully the travel goes well, the team gets along well, and that we play well. Again, I talked earlier about the process, and these 4 matches against teams that we haven't seen, it's still a process to keep preparing us for that final push during the conference season.
As we kind of take a look, what do you think they took away from that St. Thomas game? That's been your one conference loss. It was 3-0 on Saturday. What do you think they took away? What can they learn from that?
Yeah, St. Thomas did something to us that nobody has done yet. And they blocked us really well. And they kind of took away the things that we've been successful. We've been able to go up and we're leading the conference in kills per set. We're in the top 3 in hitting percentage. And St. Thomas took those 2 things away. And I think it flustered us just a little bit. We started making a few more errors than we typically do. We had more kills than St. Thomas did in that match by, I think, 7 or 8. But we also had 20 more hitting errors than they did. And it wasn't all their blocking. I think they blocked us a little bit early. And we tried to do some things a little bit different, things that we weren't comfortable with. And so just to get back to doing the things that are going to make us successful was something that we had to take out of that.
With some time now, because you didn't have a midweek match this week, did you talk to them a little bit about, hey, let's put this one aside and start focusing, because you've got a big weekend this weekend. You've got St. Ben's on Friday and then Concordia on Saturday on the road, which is always a tough road trip. We talk about that all the time. How did you kind of decompress that match and get them to make sure they're focused on this weekend?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, but I think at the same time you have to remember that match. You have to remember the situations that we got put in, and hopefully then learn to react differently to those situations. So I think that's been the emphasis of yesterday's practice, and it will be again the emphasis of tonight's practice is, okay, when we get put into a stressful situation, how do we react? When something that we normally are successful at isn't working, what adjustments can we make to then really get back on track? And so that's kind of what we've taken out of it and tried to push forward the last couple of days.
Go ahead.
I was going to say another thing you've been very successful at would be service aces. When I was looking at the stats recently, you're way ahead compared to your opponents. What's been the reason for that success serving?
We serve very aggressive. I think sometimes a little bit too aggressive. I think people that just look at the statistics also see how many serves we miss. But at the same time, for us, it's important that we take teams out of what they're trying to do offensively, whether it's with an ace or it's just getting them out of system. And even the St. Thomas match, I thought we did a good job of getting them out of system. Their outside hitters were just pretty successful, on those out of system plays. And so it's a focus for us. It's been a focus for our players over the summer. I know they put in a lot of time with that. So serving and passing, if you can win the first ball contact, you're going to be successful.
Before we get on to this weekend, I do want to ask you, as I mentioned before, you've been at St. Mary's a long time, 19 years. Have you ever seen a set like you had against St. Kate's, where you're down 24-17, and you rattle off 9 straight points to win that set? I know I've talked about it a lot, but it just amazes me that you were able to do that.
Right, and again, you mentioned earlier that was also without a timeout. By us, we let the team keep playing and let them keep working through it. And fortunately, I think we had Maddie Hess back on the service line, senior, who you can trust in those types of tough situations, and she did a great job. And I give our team credit; they just kept playing and kept playing. St. Kate's may have gotten a little bit tentative, expecting an error to kind of hand them that set, but we've had a number of those this year. Not at 24-17, but we were down 10-1 a couple of times, and the kids just keep fighting and keep playing through it. So I haven't been a part of it myself, but it was pretty unique and pretty special for the team.
And let's look ahead to this weekend. As I mentioned, a tough road trip in that the matches it's just a tough place to play, both places. Talk a little bit about the weekend, what needs to happen this weekend.
Yeah, going up on the St. Ben's Concordia road trip, we do it every other year. Our team is prepared for it. They know it's coming, so we don't talk about the difficulty of the trip, even though it is challenging. We really just have to go out and play really well, play our volleyball, control the first ball contact like I talked about. St. Ben's has played some of the similar teams that we've had and had similar success to against those teams that we have, so we expect it to be a really good match. And then have to follow it up with a tough afternoon match up at Concordia, which is always a good challenge.
We talk a lot about the conference and how good it is. This year might be... It's crazy if you just look at even what happened on Wednesday,
right.
in that it's going to be a wild conference.
Yeah, I really think there's at least 9, if not 10 teams that are in the mix for conference playoff spots this year, and we only take 6. And there's only 12 in the league, so only a couple of teams might be a little bit on the outside looking in. Outside of that, you have to take care of your conference matches, when you have the opportunity, and if you let one slip away that you should have gotten, it's going to come back and haunt you later in the season for sure.
Mike, one more question real quick. As you go out recruiting, We had talked about this earlier on the program. Do you see a lot of specialization girls just playing volleyball to focus on volleyball so they can play at that next level? Obviously, you like the multi-sport athletes because you bring a lot in, but how much of that do you see?
Yeah, you know, it's pretty significant. It's getting to be more and more and a little bit younger and younger that there's more specialization for sure. You know, Southeast Minnesota itself is a little bit different in that we do recruit out of a lot of the smaller schools.
Right.
And at those schools, those student athletes do still participate in 2, 3, sometimes 4 sports. So because we've been successful recruiting Southeast Minnesota, I think that might be part of the reason that we have a few more of those dual sport athletes on our roster.
All right, Mike Lester, the head volleyball coach. Thanks for joining us. Good luck this weekend on the long trip and the rest of the season.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
All right, stay tuned to the Cardinals Nest. Donnie and I will be right back as we'll take a look at the week ahead here on HBC.
HBC GigaWorld is fiber optic, which means it's the fastest internet available. With HBC GigaWorld, your internet possibilities are endless. Stream multiple HD movies simultaneously, video chat, browse the web, shop online, share photos, backup files to the cloud, download your favorite musician's new album, all in less than 60 seconds. HBC GigaWorld with more bandwidth and reliability than any other provider. Imagine the possibilities. Visit hbci.com today. Football night on HBC is back.
When it comes to high school football, no one has you covered like HBC.
Join HBC 25 Sports this fall as we travel to local high school football stadiums to bring you our game of the week.
And now it's brought to you in crystal clear HD.
To see the full schedule of games, log on to hbci.com/sports.
Catch all your local high school football action right here on HBC.
Brought to you by Lewiston Auto.
HBC Sports, your home for high school football.
Join a growing company where you'll be challenged, inspired, and valued with HBC. HBC Incorporated is a telecommunications company providing leading-edge fiber optic internet, video, long-distance telephone, and more. Join a culture that embraces a commitment to provide exceptional, unparalleled customer service. HBC currently has an opening for a Human Resources Director in Winona. This position will support the development and advancement of the HBC workforce. To learn more and apply, visit hbci.com/careers.
Back to wrap things up here on this week's Cardinals Nest by taking a look at the week ahead. And this weekend at St. Mary's is Family Weekend, where the parents are invited on campus to meet with their students and professors and other staff at St. Mary's. And Donnie, as part of that, it's the red-white games for both softball and baseball, which also kind of marks the end of the brief fall ball season for those two
Yeah, it's
sports.
actually kind of a lot of fun, and they really bring in very good crowds for that. Hopefully Mother Nature cooperates and we get some nice weather, but you've also got the 5K, the Fall Frolic, that is so popular with our parents and our students as well, and so it's a fun weekend and really good atmosphere on campus, and Saturday we've got 2 home soccer matches, 1 o'clock with the men and 3:30 with the women against Concordia, so it's a full day on Saturday of activities for the families and for you know, really anybody that's interested in attending.
And we should mention too, that 5K Fall Frolic is open to anybody in the community. You can register Saturday morning, just come up to St. Mary's. There'll be plenty of signs for parking and where to register and everything like that. And it goes back into the bluffs at St. Mary's, so that's a lot of fun. And the other thing we should mention too, Donnie, is that the softball team is currently sort of in the planning stages for the Haunted Forest, which is about a month away.
Right, the first weekend of the Haunted Forest is the 21st and 22nd, and then they also have the weekend of the 28th, 27th and 28th, and then Halloween night as well. So yeah, the annual Haunted Forest, and they do such a great job. It's so much work in the fall for them to get that ready, but they really do a fantastic job, and you know, as much as they may not tell you, they really enjoy doing it as well.
Yeah. So, and then we mentioned the volleyball team on the road this weekend.
Yeah, cross country's on the road this weekend. They're at Carlton for the pre-regional meet. It feels like they've been off forever. They've been, you know, they had a couple of weeks off here, and now they'll go this weekend over in Northfield. And then volleyball's back in action on Wednesday at St. Olaf. And then it's really off until next weekend with both soccers at Hamlin.
Okay, sounds like we'll have a lot to talk about next week here on the Cardinals Nest. We'll do that then. Thanks for watching here on HBC.